you ever stopped to wonder why, when success is within our grasp, a quiet voice inside us sometimes holds us back? It's almost as if, at the very moment we are about to claim what we've worked so hard for, a shadow of fear falls across our desires. Success, that thing we all chase, seems both alluring and terrifying. Why do we sometimes sabotage ourselves just when victory is near? Is it the pressure of living up to our potential, the fear of being seen, or perhaps a deeper, more existential dread? Today, we'll explore the strange psychology behind why we fear success. It's a paradox. We strive for it, yet, on some level, we recoil. As Carl Jung might suggest, there are parts of us, hidden, unacknowledged, working against our growth. And Nietzsche would ask, what does it mean to truly overcome ourselves in the face of success? We will delve into these questions, exploring how our inner conflicts, our unconscious fears, and even the weight of society's expectations shape our relationship with success. Together, let's journey through this paradox, and perhaps, in understanding it, find a way to embrace the success we're often too afraid to reach for. We all have a side of ourselves we'd rather not face, a darker part, hidden in the corners of our psyche, where our fears, doubts, and unacknowledged desires reside. This is what Carl Jung called the shadow, the unconscious part of the self that is often repressed or denied. It represents the aspects of our personality and identity that we refuse to integrate or confront, whether because they are deemed unacceptable, too painful, or simply inconvenient. The shadow holds our unacknowledged flaws and traits that are often projected onto others, but it is also the wellspring of untapped potential, waiting to be integrated into our conscious life. When it comes to success, the shadow can act as a subtle yet powerful saboteur. As we near success, the parts of ourselves that have been suppressed may begin to stir. These might include feelings of unworthiness, fear of failure, or even guilt over the possibility of changing our identity. Success, by its very nature, demands that we step into new roles and responsibilities. For many, this can trigger an inner resistance, a fear that achieving success will require us to become someone we are not yet ready to be. The shadow may whisper that we are not deserving of success, or it may project fears of judgment or failure onto the new path we are about to walk. It holds us back not out of malice, but out of an instinctual desire to protect us from a future that feels uncertain and unfamiliar. This unconscious resistance to success is deeply tied to the process of individuation, which Jung describes as the journey of becoming one's true self. The fear of success is often not the fear of success itself, but the fear of what we might become once we embrace it. Jung believed that integrating the shadow is a necessary part of this process, an acknowledgement of the darker, often ignored aspects of ourselves, allowing them to become conscious and active parts of our lives. To truly embrace success, then, we must first confront the parts of ourselves that feel unworthy of it. We must accept that to grow and evolve, we will inevitably face discomfort, challenge, and even fear. But in doing so, we allow ourselves to move beyond the limitations the shadow imposes, discovering a deeper, more authentic version of ourselves. In this way, Jung's idea of the shadow offers us a profound insight into why we fear success. Success is not merely a matter of external achievements, but also an internal transformation. It forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we have long avoided, and often, it is in this confrontation that we find our greatest strength. Through the shadow, success invites us to become more than we are, but only if we are willing to face the parts of ourselves that resist that transformation. This inner work is, paradoxically, the very thing that enables us to step fully into the success we have always sought. If this is sparking something in you, stick around. There's more to uncover. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing so you don't miss what comes next. Success, in its most profound form, demands more than mere achievement. It brings with it a burden, a weight of responsibility that many of us may not be fully prepared to bear. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most provocative thinkers in the history of philosophy, illuminates this concept through his ideas of the will to power and the eternal recurrence. For Nietzsche, success is not a final destination or a reward, but a continual struggle, a constant overcoming of obstacles, and a relentless assertion of one's power in the world. But this very striving, the ongoing pursuit of greatness, can become a heavy burden. As we reach higher levels of success, we find that the demands placed upon us increase exponentially. The more we achieve, the greater our responsibility becomes. There is no rest. There is only the drive to continue, to create, to push the boundaries of what we can accomplish. This is the essence of Nietzsche's will to power, the force within us that drives us to overcome, to assert our strength, and to transform ourselves and the world around us. Yet, paradoxically, this drive, which initially appears to be a force of liberation, can also lead to a profound sense of anxiety and fear. As we approach success, we realize that it is not merely a celebration of past efforts, but a call to a new level of existence, a new level of striving. Nietzsche's philosophy reminds us that success is an ongoing, never-ending process of self-overcoming. It is a cycle that demands more from us, and the higher we rise, the more we must continue to push against the inertia of comfort, complacency, and past limitations. For some, this becomes unbearable. The weight of responsibility, the constant need to create and to grow, can feel like a form of existential exhaustion. The fear here is not of success itself, but of the relentless, unyielding demand that success places upon us. This fear is compounded by Nietzsche's concept of the eternal recurrence, a thought experiment that asks us to imagine living our life over and over again, exactly as it is, for all eternity. What would it mean to face the repetition of our successes and failures indefinitely? For some, the idea of eternal recurrence would be liberating, an affirmation of their actions and choices. But for others, it is a terrifying prospect. The fear of success can, in part, stem from the realization that once we achieve it, we must live with it, and the weight of that success might become unbearable if it is constantly relived. Success, then, is not simply about reaching a peak. It is about inhabiting the peak forever, carrying its burdens and responsibilities without end. In this sense, Nietzsche invites us to face the true cost of success. It is not simply a matter of achieving external goals, but of constantly confronting our own inner drive, our capacity for self-overcoming, and the existential weight that comes with it. Success demands that we do not rest, that we remain in a state of perpetual becoming. This realization can be both exhilarating and frightening. The very idea of embracing success, of stepping fully into our power, can trigger deep anxiety. But as Nietzsche would urge us, we must face this challenge willingly, for it is only through embracing the full force of the will to power and the eternal cycle of recurrence that we can truly affirm our existence and grow beyond our current selves. As we reach for success, we often find ourselves not only confronting our own desires and limitations, but also the gaze of others. The fear of success, in many ways, is deeply tied to the anxiety of public scrutiny. Freud's theory of the psyche, with its delicate balance between the ID, ego, and superego, offers a profound lens through which we can understand this anxiety. The ID, driven by unconscious desires and impulses, craves immediate gratification, but the superego, the internalized voice of societal expectations, holds us to higher moral standards, demanding perfection and compliance with societal norms. The ego, caught in the middle, strives to mediate between these often conflicting forces, trying to satisfy the ID without violating the demands of the superego. When we achieve success, the spotlight shines on us in a way that can feel deeply uncomfortable. Success may trigger the superego's critical gaze, magnifying our fear of being judged, criticized, or found wanting. The more visible we become, the more exposed we are to others' perceptions, and this can ignite a profound sense of vulnerability. This fear of public scrutiny is not just about external judgment, it is about the internal conflict between the ID's desires and the superego's moral judgments. The ego, while attempting to navigate this tension, often finds itself caught in an anxiety-inducing loop, torn between the desire for personal success and the fear of being condemned or misunderstood by others. Imagine, for a moment, the experience of stepping onto a stage in front of a crowd. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and a sense of dread creeps in, not because you lack confidence in your abilities, but because you feel the weight of others' eyes upon you. You begin to question not only the quality of your work, but the very worth of your being. This is where the ID, ego, and superego collide. The ID wants to express itself freely. The superego warns against failure or judgment, and the ego struggles to manage the pressure of these competing forces. Freud understood this dynamic well. Success, in its most public form, amplifies the anxiety of being judged, of exposing ourselves to the harshest critics, not just society, but the internalized voices of our own deepest fears. Ultimately, this internal drama reveals a deeper truth about the fear of success. It is not simply about the achievement itself, but the emotional and psychological cost that comes with being seen, scrutinized, and expected to live up to an idealized version of oneself. As we climb the ladder of success, we face not only the pressures of accomplishment, but also the weight of perfectionism and the potential for self-criticism. Success, in the eyes of the public, becomes a reflection of our worthiness, and the fear of not measuring up can become overwhelming. This fear, rooted in the delicate interplay of the ID, ego, and superego, exposes the vulnerability we all feel when standing in the light of public scrutiny. It is a reminder that true success requires us to not only overcome external obstacles, but to reconcile the voices within that dictate our self-worth. Success, as we often perceive it, is shaped not only by our internal desires and efforts, but by the external forces that surround us. From an early age, we are conditioned by the society we live in, taught to measure our worth by a set of external standards: academic achievements, professional status, material wealth, and social recognition. These cultural expectations, though often invisible, are powerful forces that shape how we define success. In a world that values achievement and visibility, we may come to believe that our success is not truly ours unless it is acknowledged and validated by others. This external validation becomes a mirror through which we assess our worth, creating a subtle but persistent fear. The fear that success, unless recognized by society, is somehow incomplete or meaningless. The philosopher Michel Foucault, in his exploration of power dynamics, highlights how societal norms and institutions shape not only our behaviors, but our very sense of self. Through a process he called biopower, society exerts its influence, conditioning us to conform to a particular model of success. This model often prioritizes visible, measurable accomplishments over personal fulfillment or inner growth. As a result, we may find ourselves striving not for success as we define it, but for success as society defines it, constantly chasing external approval and recognition. This cultural conditioning is deeply embedded, so much so that we may not even question its validity. Success becomes not a reflection of our true desires or capabilities, but a performance to meet the expectations of others. Yet, this constant pursuit of external validation can be a source of profound anxiety. The more we tie our success to the approval of others, the more we place our happiness and sense of self-worth in the hands of an unpredictable and external force. In this way, success becomes fragile. It is no longer something we own, but something we must continuously seek from others, often leading to the fear that, should we fail to gain that approval, our success will be meaningless and we will be rendered invisible. We may find ourselves trapped in a cycle of comparison, constantly measuring our achievements against those of others, unable to feel truly satisfied with our own progress unless it is externally validated. This fear of failing to meet cultural expectations is not just an individual struggle, but a collective one, as we all navigate the pressures of a society that often equates worth with success. Nietzsche's concept of the herd mentality offers an insightful perspective here. The herd, society's collective norms and values, pressures individuals to conform to a common standard of success, and those who stray from this path are often made to feel alienated or inferior. Nietzsche's call for the Übermensch, the overman who creates his own values independent of societal conventions, becomes a radical response to this external conditioning. He challenges us to define success on our own terms, liberated from the expectations imposed by others. In doing so, Nietzsche offers a way out of the fear of external validation, the idea that true success comes from embracing one's authentic self, regardless of the approval or disapproval of the herd. Ultimately, the fear of success rooted in social conditioning invites us to ask a fundamental question: what does success truly mean to us, apart from the validation of others? To free ourselves from the anxiety of external expectations, we must explore what lies beneath the surface of societal norms, the deeper, perhaps less visible forms of success that resonate with our authentic self. Only by redefining success on our own terms, rather than through the lens of societal approval, can we begin to dissolve the fear that binds us and step into a more genuine and fulfilling existence. In the pursuit of success, we often encounter a profound and unsettling truth. The more we achieve, the more we are confronted by the possibility that our accomplishments might ultimately be meaningless. This existential angst, the fear that nothing truly matters, can cast a shadow over even our greatest triumphs. As we climb the ladder of success, we may find ourselves asking, what is the point of it all? The very achievement we once believed would bring fulfillment instead opens a door to a deeper, more unsettling question about the meaning of our lives and endeavors. This is the core of the existentialist dilemma. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus explored how, in the absence of any inherent meaning in the universe, we must create meaning through our actions. Yet, in this freedom to define our own purpose, we also encounter the anxiety of nothingness, the knowledge that the very achievements we pursue may be ultimately empty, and that our efforts may never fully fill the void we feel. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power offers some respite, urging us to embrace this meaninglessness and create our own values, to transform life's inherent absurdity into a source of strength and affirmation. But this is easier said than done. The fear of pursuing success only to find it meaningless can paralyze us, leading us to wonder if it is better to avoid success altogether than face the terror of its futility. In this light, success is not just a personal goal, but a mirror of our deepest existential fears. It reveals the tension between our desire for significance and the vast indifferent universe that offers no guarantees. To confront this fear is to acknowledge that success, while valuable, is not the answer to life's ultimate questions. Instead, it becomes part of our ongoing search for meaning, an effort that in itself holds more value than any achievement could provide. As we reflect on the fears that accompany success, we have journeyed through the intricate layers of our psyche. We have seen how the unconscious forces, Jung's shadow, can sabotage us, how Nietzsche's relentless drive for power and eternal recurrence can weigh heavily upon us, and how the fear of judgment, rooted in Freud's understanding of the ID, ego, and superego, creates anxiety in the face of public scrutiny. We've also touched on how societal conditioning shapes our definition of success, and how, in the end, the existential angst of meaninglessness can cast a shadow over our greatest accomplishments. Yet, amid this complex landscape, there lies a deeper truth. Success, in all its forms, is not a final destination, but part of an ongoing journey. It invites us to confront not only the external world, but our inner selves, where the real struggle often lies. Perhaps, as Viktor Frankl suggests, it is not success that ultimately fulfills us, but the meaning we create through our actions, even in the face of suffering. To live authentically, free from the burden of societal expectations and fear of judgment, is to embrace the uncertainty of existence, to create meaning where none is guaranteed. So, as you continue your own journey, ask yourself, what does success mean to you in its deepest, most personal sense? What would it look like if you defined it on your own terms, free from the weight of external validation? It is in this exploration that true freedom and peace lie, not in the achievements themselves, but in the quiet, courageous act of being, of living with purpose, regardless of the world's gaze. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below and subscribe if you haven't already for weekly insights into philosophy, psychology, and the human condition.